Hi, and welcome to Curbside Chat. This is a video podcast series where we talk about the important issues of the aftermarket with the people who make it happen. Each podcast has a host who will have a curbside conversation with a guest from the industry that will give their perspective on a particular topic. Meanwhile, I'll be moderating our live Q&A via Slido. So please send your questions via slido.com using the hashtag curbside. And before we begin, I would like to take the opportunity to thank our sponsors for today's podcast. Now, let me introduce our host for today's podcast, the chairman of AIA Canada since last April, a familiar face in the aftermarket, Susan Hitchon. Good morning, Susan, and thank you for being our host today.
Good morning, JF. Thanks for having me. And hey, folks, welcome and thank you for joining our Curbside Chat. I first want to give you just a little bit of background about why we're doing this podcast series. As you may know, this is my third year on the executive, and I was very much looking forward to being chairman for AIA. And unfortunately, COVID-19 has created a bit of a challenge, and a unique challenge that has somewhat changed the face of what my chairmanship would look like, in my view. And as humans, and myself in particular, I'm a very social person and love to be around the network and of our automotive industry and meet with you folks in person and meet at events. And without that in-person opportunity, I'm finding it a little difficult to stay connected with some folks. And I'm sure some of you are feeling the same thing. So like you in your business, we thought that we wanted to create a platform for us to stay connected with our customers, our membership. We decided to bring you a series of interviews with people who we thought contributed to our automotive aftermarket and provided some input and interesting discussion about some key topics that we see today and talking about the future of our industry. So I hope you find it informative and that you participate with questions and then join in on our future podcasts as well. So today we're going to have our key topic is, I know important to all of you, is how to recruit and retain young talent. And who better to talk to about this subject than a young and talented guy himself, Brad Cochran. So Brad is the former chairman of YPA, the Young Professionals Committee of AIA. And Brad and I go way back. We started working together back in 2006 when we hired Brad at Gates Canada as our marketing coordinator. And I remember that being Brad's first step in his career in the automotive aftermarket. He's currently Director of Sales, Operations, and Training at NAPA Auto Parts. And together we want to talk about what we know our members are talking about, investing in future young up-and-coming leaders. And why not talk with one of them here? Hey, Brad, how you doing?
Good morning, Sue. I'm doing great. Great to see you.
Good. Thanks so much for joining us. I know we chatted a little bit ahead of time and wanted to have a nice conversation with you about your experience with the YPA at AIA, your experience with AIA in general, and being a young professional and having how many years now? 14 years?
Yeah, I guess it has been 14 years. Wow, time sure does fly.
Yeah, no kidding. I remember just starting off with you, and you were fresh out of college, were you?
That's right. I was about 2 months into looking for a job, and luckily landed on my feet pretty quickly in my hometown of Brantford. So everything seemed to work out there. Yeah.
Brantford, the home of Wayne Gretzky.
That's right. Yeah.
Were you nervous in that first big interview with Gates?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. I never really had a formal interview quite like that, let alone a series of interviews. But I kept getting invited back. So I thought that was a good sign. And at the end of the day, I ended up getting offered a position. So it was nerve-wracking for sure, but a great experience, definitely.
Well, clearly you impressed us, and you continue to impress. And I've really enjoyed watching your career over the last years and seeing you grow and develop in the industry and move and be promoted. I think it's very well deserved. Good for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Wanted to first talk Brad, about tell us about YPA and your experience with the YPA program. What does YPA do for our industry?
Absolutely. So the YPA, or as you mentioned, young professionals in the aftermarket, it's really a community made up of, young executives or also aspiring young executives from across all segments of the industry. So really, its main focus is to try and provide a platform for people to, come together, share ideas, their viewpoints, but also, provide recommendations on current but also emerging challenges and opportunities that our industry faces. So it was formerly called YES, as many people are familiar, which it stood for the Young Executive Society.
Right.
So in an effort to really attract more young people to get engaged, but also to avoid people, maybe not joining because they didn't consider themselves to be an executive yet, we rebranded the group last year to YPA, or Young Professionals in the Aftermarket, really to try and be, more inclusive. So a young professional, hey, that can be somebody who's still in school, someone who's worked in the industry for years, or maybe even just started their career in the aftermarket, but also to those who maybe have been fortunate enough to, be promoted into a management or executive position within their companies. But really mention exclusivity. We try to open it up to all young people who want to get more engaged. And we really do encourage new participants. So I do think, Sue, it's the diversity of the members of the group, which really helps make us strong, but it also provides a better representation of the thoughts and the viewpoints amongst young people across the industry. So we also have a committee made up of roughly 20 members. This group has regular meetings, calls together. We also host several events throughout the year, which I know you've attended some and actually spoke at one as well. But they often feature automotive industry mentors and guest speakers from inside and outside the industry. So the events hosted by the YPA, they really do provide a great learning, but also networking opportunity for young people.
Well, I enjoyed networking with your group on a couple of occasions. I know you have a couple of social events and then a series of speaker events as well, which you said I attended. So as an old person, and I know you also encourage more senior folks with experience to also attend your events. Is that more for a networking opportunity, mentoring, relationship building? I think there's some sort of feeling that only young folks under 35 are allowed to attend these events, but it's open to everyone, right?
It really is, yes. And that's what we've been trying to just change and also communicate as well. We really do encourage, more experienced people to come out to the events. It's an awesome opportunity for a young person to, sit down, have a chat with somebody that, in another setting, they might be nervous to do so, or might just not have that opportunity. So it's a lot more relaxed environment. You could even grab a bite to eat with somebody and sit beside them and really get a chance to chat, kind of like we're doing today.
Right. And it was at the Christmas social a couple of years ago, and at some other AA events as well, that I met Catherine Jones, who I understand is the new incoming chairman. And wow, she is a bright and shining star. Tell me about Catherine and her coming into the chairmanship.
Yeah, absolutely. So very, very excited to welcome Catherine Jones from Drive as the new chair. We've had a chance to get to know Catherine over the last few years and, had the opportunity to work alongside her. And, she's really going to help take the YPA into the future. She's extremely positive, and her genuine interest in the industry itself is contagious. It really is. So I do wish Catherine all the best. And honestly, I know she's going to do an awesome job as the new chair.
Yeah, she sure exudes positivity and really has a bright outlook on life in general. She's a pleasure to talk with, and I look forward to working with her as chair of YPA.
Absolutely.
On my list is a question about the importance of the YPA community in our aftermarket. You touched on that a little bit earlier. As a new person coming into the industry, I'm talking 25 years ago, I did find it a little bit difficult to get networked and to get comfortable in large meetings with with a whole bunch of people that I didn't know. That took me a while to get comfortable. Is that one of the main things that YPA attempts to do, is to ease that comfort level for young folks coming in, or what really is YPA doing for the young folks in our community?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the mission of the YPA, as I mentioned before, it's really trying to connect and collaborate with other like-minded people from our industry. We may come from different companies or maybe even different sectors of the industry, but the folks, they do share a passion for the aftermarket, and we all have a vested interest in ensuring it has a long and bright future. So as we mentioned too, networking is very huge, and the YPA provides more opportunities for young people to do some networking, which again, it's extremely important. The aftermarket, it's huge, but it really is a tight-knit industry. And I think we could all relate. You'll find that you cross paths with the same people over and over again throughout your career. So the people that you meet at a YPA event or an AIA event, they may eventually become your new coworkers or business partners. And often, it's funny, you'll find that you have a lot in common with the people you meet at these events, and many of them will become your new friends or mentors down the road.
Right. That's great. And Brad, we've talked about this on a couple occasions when we've met. I had the opportunity a few years ago to meet and chat with the Minister of Education. And at that particular time, we were talking about how to attract women into predominantly male-dominated industries, such as automotive. There's no secret that it is male-dominated. I'm not complaining. I'm just stating a fact. But generally speaking, what she said was that when a job posting lists a long list of criteria for a particular position, men will apply for the job if they meet maybe 15 to 20% of that list of criteria. But women will only apply for the job if they meet 100% of the criteria. So I found that really interesting. I was wondering if that also applies to young professionals who are looking at automotive, not particularly informed about what the automotive industry does, but looking for a really good job, a well-paying professional job. And we and I talked about this, and I'm wondering, do we attract young talent, or do we dissuade them from applying because of the way our job postings are done, or how do we make it more attractive for them to just dip a toe in the water?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. And I know I've over the years looked at postings, and I know lots of people have, and you'd think, geez, that sounds interesting, but probably just don't have the qualifications yet. So I do think, companies can take that, keep that in mind, I guess, when they're creating a job posting, not to scare people away. And it's very interesting, that comment about, women maybe wanting to hit all of the marks and men maybe saying, I'm going to take a shot here, see if I get it or not. But I think young people would be in the same position. That's a challenge. Coming right out of school, you likely don't have a lot of experience that might be written on that posting, but you could have a whole lot to bring to the table. So I think employers could just try and be mindful that in order to get experience, you need to take a chance on new people.
Right.
Give them that opportunity to get some experience and improve themselves. So yeah, that's a very interesting point, but I do think we can do our part not to basically scare people away.
That's great. And I think there's an opportunity for us to reconsider and reconfigure how we do our job postings, right? To make it interesting and attractive to click on and say, I'm going to apply for this, rather than make it seem like a daunting job that they could never possibly achieve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I know recruiting is a huge part of the challenge, and just educating people about the opportunities that are available to them. Because a lot of people, they might not be familiar with your company, maybe because you might not have a retail or consumer presence. So I would encourage your companies to try and get involved in any way you can locally, whether it's with colleges, universities, co-op positions, or summer job opportunities offered to students are a great way to help get the word out as well. And career fairs, an engaging online presence, but also making it easy for job seekers to find and contact you.
Yeah, that's great. And you know, there's something to be said for really good companies attract really good people.
Sure.
So, and so Brad, thanks very much. Just before we wrap up, we're going to go back to JF and see if you have any questions in the chat box.
We also have another question here is how do you anticipate training changing in the post-COVID world? Do you see significant ramp up of distance learning for both technician and the soft skill?
I do, yes, I really do. You know, I know a lot of training at the technician level is obviously best case scenario would be hands-on, you know, in a shop setting, but we're just not able to do that right now. So I do see more virtual training becoming kind of like the new normal, and maybe even beyond COVID-19, taking more of a hybrid approach, you know, with in-class or in-shop training, but also through virtual training as well. Cars aren't getting any easier to work on, that's for sure. And we need to make sure that, you know, our technicians are getting the training they need.
Great. Brad, maybe more of a comment. As a young graduate student, I have to thank the AIA for the many networking opportunities available to us. I look forward to joining the Aftermarket and being a part of this ecosystem. And knowing the person who wrote the question, I guess it came from a Georgian College Automotive Business School of Canada students. So I guess, Brad, there is an involvement of the YPA with the Georgian College, correct?
Absolutely, yes. So the AIA has been very connected with Georgian for years. You know, one of my favorite days of the year is actually attending their Student Aftermarket Day, and I've had the privilege of speaking at that event a few times. And you know, just the sidebar conversations you can have with the students, they're just fantastic. They really, you know, keep you in tune with you know, the up and coming generation of young professionals. But one thing we would love to you know, keep establishing new connections with other colleges right across the country. You know, high schools as well. Let's you know, let's keep expanding our horizons with the schools we're working with.
Great, Brad. So we now have prepared some rapid fire questions for Brad. So Brad did not see the questions prior to the podcast, and the rule is to answer in only a few words. So we have 10 questions and we have 2 minutes. Susan, fire away.
Okay, Brad, here you go. What was the make and model of your first car?
It was a 1986 300 ZX.
Sweet. And what was your first paying job?
Well, cutting grass for neighbors, kind of like
Nice.
a cash deal, yeah.
What is your favorite thing about working in the auto industry?
I love cars. You know what? That's what really attracted it. You know, in the beginning, and it's kind of cool. I get to chat about cars all day.
Me too. What is one thing you've missed most during COVID-19?
Just the regular interactions with people. Very social person. You know, I've been in the office for the last several years, and just, you know, having that chance to grab a coffee with somebody in the morning. You know, quick chats throughout the day. You know, face to face, right?
For sure.
Sounds kind of funny, but I'm missing my my drive too. It seems
Yeah.
weird, but
Yeah,
you know me, I like to crank the tunes, and
I hear you.
just having that time in the car before and after work, I'm actually missing that quite a bit.
Now, speaking about music, I know you're musically inclined. How many instruments do you play?
I play one. Yeah, I guess stuck to one and tried to get as good at that as I could.
And that's the drums, right?
That's right, yeah.
Perfect. Who would you want to play you in a movie of your life?
Oh, geez. I don't know, Jason Statham. How about that?
Perfect. Perfect. You've got the hair. You've got the hair for it.
That's right.
Name one of the things on your bucket list.
I would love to travel overseas. I've never been to Europe, so that is something that I've always wanted to do.
Nice. What superpower would you like to have?
Fly, for sure.
Yeah, perfect. What are you terrible at, but love to do anyway?
Drawing. I'm a terrible drawer, and I've got a 1.5-year-old, and yeah, we're about on the same page right now.
Perfect. And what advice would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Don't pretend that you know it all. Be willing to take advice anywhere you can get it.
Perfect. Perfect. So Brad, that concludes our session and our conversation. It seemed to go really fast. we could have chatted for much longer, but thank you for joining us this morning, for educating us on the YPA committee. And I look forward to hearing from Catherine and what's coming from YPA. So, and to the rest of the folks on the call, join us later this summer when our next guest, who needs no introductions, Steve Leal, President and CEO of Fix Auto World and board member. Stay tuned for that info. So thank you, JF, for joining and helping us run this program this morning. Any last words?
Well, yes, I guess I would like to thank you, Susan, for being our host today. And special thanks to our guest, Brad Cochran, for again, a great show. Also, please know that this podcast will be made available for playback on their website soon at AIACanada.com. At last, I would like to say that today's episode was brought to you by Drive, Canadian Tire, Men in Hummel, Carquest Woolpack, Wakefield Canada, Spectra Premium, Mavotech, Grote Industries, Contitech Canada, Brake Parts, and GK. If you like our show and want to know more, you can check out our website at aiacanada.com/event or by leaving up a review on AIA Canada Facebook page. Thanks for watching.